I'm Dhruti. You're watching TimesXP and welcome to the top US news today. Right now in the United States, a strange and worrying trend is growing. Some powerful people in politics, specifically the MAGA supporters, are going after international students who are studying at top universities like Harvard. You know what's shocking is that even the daughters of world leaders like Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney and Chinese President Xi Jinping have become the targets. Let's start with Cleo, daughter of the Canadian Prime Minister. She's a social studies student at Harvard University and has been active in environmental causes. A few months ago, she was reportedly arrested at a pro-Palestinian protest in London, but she hasn't been in any kind of trouble while at Harvard. In fact, she recently introduced her father at a big political event in Canada, and that public visibility seems to have caught the attention of MAGA group in the US. They are now calling for her deportation, even though she's just a student who's trying to complete her education. Next is Xi Mings, the daughter of Chinese President Xi Jinping. She studied psychology at Harvard and graduated back in 2024. She was mostly studying in secret to stay out of public eye and returned to Harvard recently for higher studies. MAGA supporters are now also looking for her social media and university campuses, demanding she should be sent back. Now, this has created fear among many Chinese students in the US who feel that they are being unfairly targeted just because of their background or their government's action. Now, this campaign by MAGA supporters comes at a time when Donald Trump and his allies are cracking down on international students, specifically those at liberal schools like Harvard that supports freedom of speech and political debates. MAGA groups claim that international students are stealing seats and jobs that should go to Americans. But this view ignores the fact that international students actually bring a lot of money and brain power into the country. For many universities, international students are a big part of what keeps them world-class, both in terms of ideas and funding. Well, to make things worse, another student, Indian American Megha Vimuri, was also targeted recently. Megha was supposed to speak at her MIT graduation but was removed before the ceremony after she criticized MIT's ties with the Israeli military and spoke in support of the people in Gaza. MAGA trolls attack her online, accusing her of being anti-American. Again, it shows how international students are being pushed aside simply for expressing their opinion. Well, this issue has sparked debate all over the United States. Even many moderate Republicans are speaking out against this MAGA attitude. For example, former Ohio Governor John said that it was a big mistake to kick out international students from top schools like Harvard. He pointed out that many of these students go back to their countries and become leaders who do understand and appreciate the United States, which help build better relationship between nations. America has long been seen as the best place in the world for education. In fact, education is one of the biggest exports from the United States. Not weapons or cars, but world-class learning. Famous Indians like Anand Mahindra, Rahul Bajaj, P. Chidambaram, Kapil Sibal, and Naina Lal, they all studied at Harvard. Thousands more have taken executive courses over there to improve their leadership skills. Now, all of this is at risk. If this anti-foreigner mindset grows, it could damage America's reputation as a global education hub. Many students from India, China, and other countries too might start thinking twice before applying to the US schools. That would be a huge loss, not just for the students, but also for the America too. In the end, while international students have always played a big role in shaping the US education system and even helping the country grow, some extreme political groups are now targeting them unfairly. If you are graduating in 2025 and hoping to land a job in the US, things might not be as easy as you're expecting. Even though the news says that the US job market is growing and the unemployment rate is low, just 4.2%, there's another side to the story that's not so great, specifically for the young people. Right now, America is going through what many are calling a no fire, no hire phase. So basically that means that companies aren't hiring much, but they aren't firing people too. This sounds stable. But it's actually bad news for new graduates who are trying to get their foot in the door. Let's break it down now. Even though the US has seen job growth for 52 months in a row, which is one of the longest stretches in the history, many businesses have hit the pause button. Why? Because of the uncertainty. Trade wars with other countries, raising interest prices, and economic pressure have made companies nervous. So instead of making bold hiring moves, they are playing it safe. As a result, entry-level jobs, the kind that college graduates usually apply for, have dropped a lot. One of the biggest problems is that the US jobs for new college graduates is actually worse than it was during the COVID-19 pandemic. That's a big deal. According to research by Oxford Economics, for the first time since 1980s, recent graduates, that is aged between 22 and 27, are facing higher unemployment than the national average. Well, and that particular gap is getting wider every single year. Since mid-2023, the unemployment rate for new graduates has gone up by 1.6% points. That's 3 times more than the national rate increase. Well, to put it simply, if the national unemployment rate is 4.2%, young people aged 20 to 24 are facing nearly double that at 8.2%. And for even younger people, things look worse. People in their early 20s are now seeing a 9.6% unemployment rate as compared to 6.7% just a year ago. That means almost 1 in 10 young people looking for jobs can't find one right now. This is a big shift because just a couple of years ago, in 2021 and 2022, when companies were desperate to hire and retain employees after the pandemic lockdown. But now, they are being extra careful. With the economy in an uncertain spot, specifically because of trade tensions with countries like China and higher interest rates from the Federal Reserve, many businesses are choosing to stay still. They don't want to hire new people if they are not sure that they can afford to keep them long term. The US Labor Department also recently reported the number of people who are receiving unemployment benefits have reached 4-year high. That means even people who already lost their jobs are struggling to find new ones. It's taking longer for people to get hired, and that's specifically hard on new graduates who haven't even had a chance to start. If you're using platforms like LinkedIn to look for jobs, you may have already noticed this slowdown. LinkedIn's data shows that overall hiring in the US is down by 18% as compared to March 2020. For entry-level jobs, it's even worse. Hiring is down 23%. So yes, if it feels hard to get noticed or land an interview, you're definitely not imagining it. Some economists say that this no hire, no fire situation could help the economy in the long run. Thomas Simons, an investment banker, says that while it's tough now, it might help control inflation, boost productivity, and keep the economy stable later. But that doesn't really help the fresh graduates, right? Who are sending out hundreds of applications and hearing nothing back. And now let's talk about the mental health and confidence for a moment. According to LinkedIn, Gen Z workers, people born between 1990 and 2000, are feeling more anxious and less confident about their job prospects. In fact, their confidence has dropped even more now than it did during the early months of the COVID-19 pandemic. This shows just how frustrating the situation is for young people who are trying to start their careers in the United States. So, what can new grads do? First of all, know that you're not alone. Millions of students across the US are facing the same challenges. Since Donald Trump returned back to the White House, many green card holders in America are feeling nervous. Some are even wondering, is it too risky to renew my green card under Trump? Well, it's a fair question, specifically with all the talks and implementation of stricter immigration rules. But let's clear things up in very easy language. Because the truth is, there is no danger in renewing your green card no matter who the president is. First, a quick reminder. A green card gives you permanent residency in the US. As of 2022, there were around 12.9 million green card holders, and many of them are from India. Well, that's a huge number of people who depend on this card to live, work, and travel freely in the US. Now, if your green card is about to expire or has already expired, you simply need to renew it using a form called I-90. This form can be filled out online or on papers, but most experts suggest doing it online. Why? Because it's faster, cheaper, and more convenient. When you fill the form online, you can keep your current green card until you receive the new one. If you send the form by mail, you might have to send your old green card along with it. So online can just be easier way overall. In the meantime, the I-90 form asks a few detailed questions. Like, how did you first get your green card? Did you apply from inside the United States or from your home country through a US embassy? Where did you first enter the US? Well, these questions might seem confusing, but don't worry. Even if you make small mistakes like writing the wrong airport name or not remembering where your interview was, you won't be punished just like the students or immigrants. People have made mistakes like this before and still got their green cards renewed. Now, the only tip that experts give is this. If you have filled this form before, try to keep your answers consistent with what you wrote last time. Now, here's where people get really worried. Can I be deported for renewing my green card? So the answer is no. Just applying to renew your green card will not trigger any removal or deportation process. The only time the US government might cancel somebody's green card is if that particular person has done something serious, like committed a violent crime, become a threat to national security, or violated big immigration laws, or lied. Just being late to renew your card or making a simple mistake on the form is not a reason for deportation. It's also worth noting that even though USCIS aims to finish the renewal process in under 2 months, sometimes it can take longer. In rare cases, people have waited 10 to 12 months. That can happen due to government delays or mistakes in the application. If the mistake was made by the applicant, they might have to pay the fee again, and if the mistake was made by USCIS, then no extra payment is needed. However, you may be asked to submit a paper form instead of filing online in such cases. So, even under Trump's presidency, there is no rule or law that stops somebody from renewing their green card if they didn't commit any mistake or never lied. The process has been the same for years, and millions of people do it every single year without any kind of trouble. Even Trump's strictest policy didn't stop green card renewals during his first term, and neither they will do it now. In fact, what's more important than who's in power is that you renew your green card on time, ideally 6 months before it expires. If your green card is already expired, don't panic. You still can renew it, but you might have trouble proving your legal status in certain situations like when applying for a job or re-entering the US after travel. So basically, in short, if you have a green card, you are safe to renew it. Don't wait, don't worry, just follow the steps and you'll be fine, even if Trump is in the power. Well, if you're unsure about your case or feel nervous about doing it alone, you can also talk to an immigration lawyer or a certified advisor. In a shocking case from the United States, a 29-year-old Indian man named Prakash Makwana has admitted in the court that he tried to stay in the US by faking a marriage with an American citizen. His goal? Of course, just to get a green card, which gives permanent residency in the US. But things didn't go as planned. He got caught and now he could face jail, heavy fines, and even deportation. So let's break down the story in simple terms. Akash came to the US in November 2019 on a J-1 visa, which is a temporary visa mainly for short-term workers, often in hospitality or exchange programs. That visa expired in November 2020, but instead of returning to India, Akash stayed in the US illegally. Then in 2021, he decided to pay $10,000 to marry a US citizen. The idea was simple: marry an American, pretend it's a relationship that is real, and then apply for a green card based on that marriage. Akash and the woman got married in September 2021 in West Virginia, and they even faked living together. He added her name to his utility bills and bank accounts and made a fake rental lease that showed that they were living under the same roof. But that's not all. He even forged the signature of a property manager on the lease, which is a serious crime known as identity theft. Later on, when the fake marriage started to fall apart, Akash went one step further. He told the US immigration authorities that his American wife was abusing him. He said that he was a victim, hoping that this particular lie would help him stay in the US even after the marriage failed. But this too was a lie. He has now admitted in the court that he made all of this thing up just to avoid being deported. Now he's waiting for his sentence, which is scheduled for September 26. He could be sent to prison, pay a big fine, and will likely to be sent back to India. Well, this case has grabbed attention because the US immigration authorities are cracking down hard on fake marriages. The US Citizenship and Immigration Services clearly says that marriage frauds is a federal crime. If caught, then a person can face up to 5 years in jail and a fine of up to $250,000. Now let me tell you what exactly counts as a marriage fraud. Marrying somebody just for immigration benefit, faking a marriage with both partners knowing that it's not real, tricking somebody into a marriage under false promises. Well, USCIS take these matters very seriously and has made it very easy to report fake marriages online. Well, they even have a tip form on their website where people can report fraud anonymously. You don't even have to give your name. If you want a United States visa to visit, study, or work in the US, you need to know that your visa will only be given after all security checks are finished. The US Citizenship and Immigration Services made it very clear to everybody out there. The US government takes its national security very seriously. So this means that they check every visa applications carefully, looking for anything that could be a threat. Well, they check many different databases related to law enforcement and counter-terrorism. No visa will be approved until the security checks are fully completed. Well, this is important because the US wants to keep its citizens very safe from any possible danger. Even after you get a visa, the government keeps watching to make sure that all the rules are followed. If visa holders break any law or immigration rules, their visas can be taken away and they might be asked to leave the country immediately. The government is also working very hard to stop people from lying or cheating to get visas. Anybody caught doing visa fraud can be banned from entering the US forever. In fact, in recent months, the process to get a visa have become stricter. Visa officers are now asking tougher questions. They want to know exactly why you want to visit, how long you will stay, and if you have enough money to support yourself. Even though the forms you fill out haven't charged much, the way officers check your answers is more careful. People who want to study in the US are also facing major checks, specifically on their social media profiles. So this means that the government is looking more closely at what you post online to make sure that you're honest and safe to allow in. Now, because of this, many student visa interviews have been paused temporarily. The US Secretary of State asked embassies to stop scheduling new visa interviews for the students until and unless they can improve how to check social media and other information. This is part of a bigger plan to keep better control over who comes to the US for schools or any exchange program. Another very important point is about overstaying your visas. If you stay in the US longer than allowed, even if you entered legally, you can be deported and banned from coming back. The US Embassy in India recently warned people about these serious visa rules. Overstaying can cause temporary trouble for anybody wanting to visit or live in the US in near future. So basically, in summary, getting a US visa today means going through many security checks, following strict rules, and being honest at every step. The US government is working really hard to keep its immigration system safe and fair. In Milwaukee, a serious and shocking case has come to the light involving two men, Dimitri Scott and Raymond Morales Reyes. Scott has been charged with trying to trick the police and immigration officials by sending fake letters that threatened to harm Donald Trump, the United States president. You know what makes this case even more troubling is that Scott wrote these threatening letters pretending to be Morales Reyes, an undocumented migrant whom Scott was accused of hurting in a violent attack. Let me tell you what's behind the story. Scott and Morales had a history of conflict. Morales was the victim where Scott allegedly attacked him with a box cutter during a fight over a stolen bike. Now, this crime was set to go to trial, but before the court case started, a threatening letter arrived written by somebody pretending to be Morales, claiming that they wanted to harm Trump. The letter was sent to important people like Wisconsin Attorney General, local police, and immigration officials. This caused a big stir because the threat looked very real at first. Even some government officials believed the letter was actually genuine. Christine Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, praised ICE officer for arresting Morales based on the letter. The letter itself was very angry and threatening, saying things like, "We are tired of this president messing with us Mexicans," and threatening to harm Trump at one of his rallies. However, things didn't add up for long. Morales' own family said that he couldn't have written the letter because he simply don't know how to read or write well, neither in Spanish or English. Officials compared his handwriting to the letter and found that they were very different. They realized the threat was fake and not serious. After that, further investigation showed that Scott admitted to writing the letter himself. He wanted to blame Morales so that Morales would be arrested by immigration authorities and wouldn't be able to testify against him in the assault case. Scott said in a phone call that if Morales was taken by ICE, the court trial might be dismissed. This was Scott's plan to avoid punishment. Right now, Scott is in jail facing serious charges not only for his framing plot but also for the attack on Morales. Morales lives in Milwaukee with his wife and 3 children. He works as a dishwasher and had applied for a special visa called the U visa. Now, this particular visa is meant for people who are in the US without legal permission but have been victims of serious crimes. It helps protect them and allows them to stay legally while cooperating with law enforcement. Now, this particular case shows how dangerous and unfair it is when somebody tries to lie and cause trouble for others, specifically immigrants who are already vulnerable. For many Indian H-1B visa holders, trying to book a visa appointment online feels like a nightmare. The official US visa website, where applicants must book their H-1B visa stamping appointments, often don't work properly. Many people say that the site keeps crashing or showing errors, making it very hard to get a booking. Sometimes appointment slots do appear, but when they try to book it, the site crashes or freezes and they lose their chance. This causes a lot of frustration and confusion. People are not missing appointments because they aren't trying. In fact, many check the site repeatedly, sometimes dozens of times a day, hoping to find an open slot. But the system seems to punish them for this by blocking or slowing down their access. Let me tell you that there is no clear explanation from the officials who are managing the website right now. It feels like the system is broken on purpose to make it harder for people to get appointments. Some users online say that it looks like the website is designed to filter out applicants quietly without saying so openly. Well, this problem is not just a small technical issue. It's causing real difficulties for thousands of H-1B workers who want to travel, plan their lives, or visit their family. Many are stuck in a waiting game with no clear way forward because the website is unreliable. Some calls it bad management or incompetence, while others call it unfair treatment of hardworking people trying to follow the rules. This situation shows how important it is for the government websites to work properly, specifically when people's jobs and lives depend on them. Well, if you are an H-1B visa worker who is facing the problem, remember that you're not alone. Many people are struggling too, sharing their experiences online and hoping to fix this whole situation very soon. You tell me, what do you think? Should the authorities fix this quickly, or do you feel that something bigger needs to change about how visa appointments are handled? The United States Supreme Court has recently made important decisions supporting some of US President Donald Trump's toughest immigration policies, specifically his plan for deporting many migrants. Now, this shows that court's general agreement with Trump's strict approach to immigration. But at the same point of time, the justices have also raised concern about how these policies are being carried out, making sure that migrants are treated fairly under the law. Since Trump returned to the power in January, the Supreme Court has had to step in several times just to decide on urgent legal fights related to his immigration crackdown. Let me give you an example. The court allowed the Trump administration to end special legal protection that had been given to hundreds of thousands of migrants by the previous Biden administration. These protections, called the temporary protected status and humanitarian parole, had helped many people from countries like Venezuela, Cuba, Haiti, and Nicaragua stay safely in the US for now. Recently, the court lifted a judge's order that had stopped the government from taking away these special legal status from more than 500,000 migrants from those particular countries. Now, this means that the administration can move forward with the deportations, at least for now, while lower courts continue to work on related legal situations. However, the Supreme Court has also made it clear that the government must follow the US Constitution's rule to treat migrants fairly. The Constitution guarantees due process, which means that people must get notice and a fair chance to defend themselves before they are deported. For example, the court criticized the government for giving some migrants only about 24-hour notice before deportation without telling them how to fight it. The court said that this is not enough time or the information for a fair process. One case involved the government trying to deport Venezuelan migrants by using an old law called the Alien Enemies Act, which was mainly used during the wartime. The government accused some migrants of being part of a dangerous gang, but many people, including lawyers and families, said that these accusations were actually wrong. The court has stopped the government twice from using this law to deport these migrants quickly without proper legal protection. The court is still deciding if the government can actually use this law for such deportations or not. The Supreme Court also ordered the government to help a migrant named Kilmar, who was wrongly deported back to El Salvador. The government hadn't brought him back to the US yet, which some people say that ignores the court's order. This case is important because it shows the risks that migrants face when mistakes happen during deportation. Experts say that Supreme Court is trying to balance the government's power to enforce immigration law with the right of migrants. The court tends to respect the president's authority to deport non-citizens, but also protect basic legal rights to prevent extreme or illegal actions. Still, some experts believe that the court gives the government too much freedom in immigration matters compared to the other legal areas that are there. Many migrants who lost their temporary protected status could face even hard situation. Without legal permission to stay, they risk being deported, separated from their family, or losing their jobs. Now, for some, returning to their home countries could even be dangerous. Trump's tough immigration policies started during his first term as president too, if you remember. The Supreme Court once supported his plan to ban on people from certain Muslim-majority countries, but blocked his effort to end protection for young immigrants called Dreamers. Now, several big immigration cases are still waiting for the decision. One important case deals with Trump's plan to limit birthright citizenship, which is rule that almost all the babies born in the United States become citizens automatically. Another case looks at the government's practice of sending migrants to third countries that are not their home countries, including places with serious danger. Well, a judge recently ruled that migrants being sent to these third countries must be told in advance and given a chance to explain why they might face harm if they are sent there. The government tried to send migrants to South Sudan despite this order, but the judge stopped them. Now, some migrants are being kept at a military base while the legal battle continues. Legal experts think that the Supreme Court will likely protect migrants' rights in this dispute, making sure that they get a fair chance before being sent away. So basically, overall, the Supreme Court is playing a big role in shaping how Trump's immigration plan are put into action. It supports many of his policies, but also makes sure that the government follows important rules to protect people's rights. You tell me, what do you think about these decisions? How should the US balance strong immigration law with fairness and safety for the migrants? Let's explore this together. That's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. Follow Times XP for more such updates.